Hello and welcome to your Building Resilience to Stress webinar. Stress is something that affects every one of us throughout our lives, so it's important to learn how to become more resilient. So please feel free to make any notes as we go through this webinar, or you can take any photos or screenshots of any of the slides too. If you have any questions, you can write them down as you go to discuss further with your coach at your next one-to-one. So the aims and objectives of today's session are to understand what stress is and how it affects us, to identify a range of strategies to reduce stress by becoming more resilient, and to understand where to go for additional support. So an important question to ask firstly then is, what is stress? So it's our body's response to pressures from a situation or life event. One of the main reasons that people experience stress is due to not being able to manage pressures from all aspects of their life. We allow that fight or flight response to kick in when it doesn't really need to. And this is done by focusing on one thing too much and fighting the situation, and not focusing on other things enough and then flighting those situations. So this can lead to family relationships or friendships being neglected and even breaking down, focusing too much on work and not getting a good work-life balance, or maybe neglecting other important areas like exercise, diet and sleep. So why do we have a stress response? So when you feel threatened, your nervous system responds by releasing a large amount of stress hormones, including adrenaline and cortisol, and these alert the body to take emergency action. So your heart pounds faster, your muscles tighten, your blood pressure rises, your breathing rate increases, and your senses become sharper. So despite the evolutionary process, this natural hormonal response that our body automatically does has always remained the same, and it dates back to even caveman days. So this isn't something that we're doing wrong, as it is a physiological response where hormones are being released, and some big life events can cause our bodies to automatically trigger this response. However, we can challenge this response in certain situations and ways, particularly in those situations where we don't really need to fight or flight like our ancestors would have. And this is called resilience, which we're going to talk a little bit more about throughout the webinar. So when we're stressed, it's often because we've neglected to look after ourselves and our needs. So an example is when we're busy at work, we might stop exercising or stop doing an important leisure or social activity that we normally do. And this makes us more depleted with less energy for work, which in turn then makes work more stressful. So it can become a bit of a vicious cycle. The more stressed we become, the more we neglect our personal needs, which in turn then makes us more stressed. So self-care includes taking care of our own needs, goals, and also acknowledging our accomplishments and really taking time to nourish and nurture all of who you are. So this is things like personal hygiene, taking ownership of your health and lifestyle by prioritising eating well, keeping active, and making sure that you are scheduling in relaxation time as well. So a lot of us only think about self-care when we get stressed or overwhelmed, and only when things feel like they're falling apart do we start to wonder how we could have looked after ourselves better. However, a more useful habit would be to make self-care part of our everyday lives, even when things are going well. So instead of just reacting when we get stressed, we proactively take steps to try and prevent excess stress by addressing the 4 dimensions of self-care regularly. So the 4 dimensions of self-care are the mind, which is the mental and psychological aspect. So that's how we learn and think and grow. And then we have the body, which is the physical aspect. That's how we live, how we move, how we breathe. And then we've got the heart, which is the emotional aspect. So how we love, care, and create good relationships with ourselves and others. And then finally, the spiritual aspect, which is about connecting to things with purpose, essence, and meaning. So we can experience stress during major life events such as the birth of a new baby, bereavement, change of job, moving house maybe. And these events can be positive or negative, and the event can be current or in the past, with feelings towards it being triggered by a current situation. So these tend to occur at various stages in life for certain periods of time. Daily hassles or having a lot on your mind can also cause this stress response, but at lower levels. But they can be on a daily basis, such as time pressure, workload, disagreements with people. Stress is being overwhelmed with pressure, and this can be in the form of many thoughts going around in your head. So if this is something you're struggling with, you could try writing them down, as this will help to clear your mind and reduce some of that feeling of stress. It is usually easy to deal with one-off daily hassles, but it can be harder to deal with several at a time or if they're repetitive or prolonged. So this increases your body's stress response on an ongoing basis. So when you have too many daily hassles or lots on your mind, all it can take is for your car to break down or you have an argument with someone and you can become very overwhelmed. So it's like the straw that broke the camel's back or the last string holding the rope together finally breaks. So how does stress affect us in the long term then? Well, it can cause long-term mental health problems such as anxiety and depression. It can cause digestive problems like IBS and stomach upsets. You can get regular headaches, feel fatigued and drained on a daily basis. It can cause heart disease, sleep problems, weight gain, and chronic pain, which is typically in the back, neck and shoulders. If you have any long-term medical conditions, it can actually make your existing symptoms worsen. So it is really, really important to manage any stress that you have as best you can before things start to snowball and impact your quality of life or your relationships. So I'd like to ask you these questions on your screen. So firstly, what causes you the most stress? So do you experience regular daily hassles? Is there always lots on your mind maybe? And then once you've thought about that, have a think about what you do to cope. So are your coping strategies working for you? Are they healthy coping strategies or are they actually contributing to further health problems? So I'm going to pause for a moment so you can have a little think about those questions now and then see if you can write down your answers. Okay, so hopefully you've written something down, but if not, maybe you might want to make a note to discuss with your coach at your next one-to-one. Later in the webinar, we will go through some healthy coping strategies, so you can write down any useful tips next to these answers to help you cope and manage your stress a bit better. So pressure is unavoidable in life. Too little pressure can cause boredom and low performance. Too much pressure can cause panic and burnout. Some pressure can make you feel more alert, it can improve your motivation and lead to job or task satisfaction. So to feel this way and to perform well at your tasks, you'd ideally like to be somewhere on this curve between comfort and stretch. After that point, having even more pressure can turn into strain and your performance does not improve any further. In this case, if you add more to your plate, you will not improve at getting things done to your standards. And if you get to the panic stage, your performance actually drops completely. So this can be about performance at work or even with achieving your weekly goals with exercise or diet, say. So I'd like to ask you, where on this stress curve are you? If you're at either boredom, strain or panic, then what can you do to get to comfort or stretch? So I'll pause for a moment so you can have a quick think about that, and then if you can, write down your answer. Okay, so resilience is the ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult life events. Being resilient doesn't mean that people don't experience stress, emotional upheaval and suffering. Resilience is important because it gives people the strength needed to process and overcome hardship. Resilience doesn't mean being immune to stress or sadness, but rather it's about coping and bouncing back from challenges and setbacks. So when you're resilient, you're able to grow and develop whatever problems you encounter. Resilience isn't a fixed trait within a person. It is a combination of attitudes, skills, and behaviours that can be learnt and developed. So this means that everyone can develop their resilience to hopefully increase their sense of well-being and satisfaction with life. So we can build resilience by improving attitudes, skills, and behaviours in these 5 areas. Resilient people are proactive. They take action to solve problems and work towards things that are important to them. So an example could be someone who exercises regularly in order to have a positive impact on their health by assisting them to be as physically and mentally fit as they possibly can be, so they can increase their chances of being able to continue to do activities that they enjoy later on in life, or maybe just to be able to spend quality time with loved ones. So to become more resilient, we can try to be more proactive in problem solving within these 5 areas. So we've got the purpose. So spiritual care by creating a sense of purpose and developing your passion for living, taking time to find and explore something that really gives you meaning. Then we've got self, so appreciating your strengths and building positive self-esteem, filling and nourishing your mind with a new hobby or skill to keep sharp and build your confidence. Then we've got connections. So humans do need social interaction, so make an effort to reconnect and create great relationships with family and friends, or make connections within your community maybe. Body, so that's prioritising your physical well-being and building a healthy lifestyle. So fueling your body with high quality nutrients and regularly exercising will fortify your mental health and help to improve your sleep quality as well. And then we've got the mind, so cultivating a positive mindset and living more presently to get more enjoyment from life. So practicing mindfulness or meditation to help you to cope with uncomfortable emotions. So we can then set goals around these 5 areas. So having clear goals for what you want to learn, do or achieve is the key to taking effective action. Setting goals in these 5 areas can increase your resilience and make you feel more in control of your life. So bad things happen to everyone, and often these are completely out of our control. So we're going to look at some specific behaviours that we know resilient people do to manage life's stresses. So resilient people accept that bad things happen and no human is actually immune from this. So we seem to live in a world where we're exposed to perfect photos on social media, and it does seem that other people's lives are without trouble. And this can make us feel worse, and these snapshots do not represent what life is really like. So it's very easy to compare ourselves to other people, but in reality, the people who show themselves to have these perfect lives on social media don't necessarily show you the bad bits. And this can make you wonder, why me? Or why doesn't anyone else have these problems? When really they do, just like us. So we should all really talk about it more. So focus on what you can control. Resilient people are really good at carefully choosing where they focus their attention. As humans, we're really good at noticing things, but our negative emotions tend to stick to us like glue, whereas the positive things easily slip away. Focusing on the negative things can be beneficial as it can allow us to make changes. However, this is only the case when we take action to make those improvements. Whereas if we don't take action on those negative emotions, then we do not make progress and we may continue to feel bad. The problem is, in modern life, we are constantly bombarded with perceived threats and our stress response is dialed up often. So I'd like to do a little activity with you now that's been shown to improve mental well-being. So what are you grateful for today? Did you achieve a goal maybe? Are you grateful for the people around you or the job that you have? So think of what you're grateful for now, however small, and then write it down. I'm going to pause for a moment so you can do that now. So a 6-month study was conducted on gratefulness, where 3 groups of people were asked to keep a daily gratitude journal, where they'd spend 2 minutes at the end of each day writing down what they were grateful for during that day. So one group had depression, another group had chronic pain, and the final group were a control group of average people. After 6 months, all 3 groups reported higher levels of happiness than at the start of the study. The chronic pain group reported lower levels of pain, and the group with depression reported reduced symptoms of depression. So being happier can help you to manage your stress levels. And with this, all you need to do is 2 minutes each evening. You could get yourself a new notebook or download a gratitude app on your phone. So if this is something that you would like to do more regularly, then maybe write down a reminder to yourself now, and you could turn it into a bit of a SMART goal at the end of this webinar, or you could take with you to your next one-to-one to discuss further with your coach. So we should all take time to reflect on our thoughts. So maybe you could ask yourself, is what I'm thinking and doing helping or harming me? Reflecting on this puts you back in the driving seat and back in control of your decision making. So for example, in terms of your lifestyle, you could be thinking, I feel too tired to go for a run. Well, is there something else I could do instead? Do I really need that extra glass of wine? Or can I distract myself with something else I enjoy doing? So instead of having thoughts and accepting them, resilient people will challenge their own thoughts. And this can lead to different ways of thinking and reacting to a situation, which can lead to a better outcome. So in terms of things that we can do to improve our resilience and better manage stress, one method is to ensure that we're achieving a good and consistent work-life balance. So this means that the two are separated, meaning that the stress of work should stay at work and not follow you outside of office hours. Now, I completely understand this is easier said than done, but thinking about your work whilst you're enjoying your leisure time can actually almost extend your working day. So try to distract yourself and set some boundaries. If you don't do this, then you're much more likely to suffer from burnout. And the negative effects of a burnout can impact every area of your life, including your personal and social life. And it can also have a massive impact on your mental well-being. So it's really important to find that balance. So it's important to remember that being more balanced doesn't necessarily mean dramatic upheaval in your life. The small things really do matter, as we will meet obstacles along the way, but the small things can still help you to move forward. So a small investment in the right places can drastically transform your relationships and your overall quality of life. So this just might be something as simple as taking 5 minutes out of your working day to practice a mindfulness technique, or maybe making sure that you do have your lunch break away from your desk, or taking a 10-minute walk after finishing work, or maybe just making time to talk to a loved one. So I'd like to ask you now, what small change do you think you can start doing today? So have a little think about that for a second and then see if you can write something down. So I'm going to pause again so you can do this. Okay, so there's 168 hours in the week. So if, for example, you're working 40 hours per week and sleeping 8 hours a night, that leaves 72 hours for other things. Now, of course, there are other activities that are essential and take up a lot of our time, such as getting the kids ready for school, travelling to work. But whenever we do this calculation with each individual person about their schedule, we do find that there's always some hours left where they could find time to exercise or have some relaxation or just do other activities that deserve to be there. So it's just about planning ahead and scheduling in these activities to fit. And remember that 10 minutes here and there really does add up. So when we say we don't have time for certain activities, it's important to challenge that and ask yourself, is it because you don't physically have the time, or is it because that particular activity isn't a priority to you? So if I asked you to do an hour's worth of exercise every day this week, you might turn around and say to me that you don't have the time. But if I said I'd give you £1 million, I'm pretty sure you'd be able to find the time to do it. So the point is that maybe it's not time that's lacking. Is it maybe that you don't want to do it, or that it's not a priority to you? So using this language reminds us that time is a choice, and we do have the power to fill our lives with things that deserve to be there, both in the short and the long term. So in an ongoing emergency situation, it is hard to predict how things will develop, and circumstances can change very quickly. Now, worrying about what might happen is understandable, but it's not necessarily very useful. In fact, it can make us feel more distressed. So you're likely to experience some strong negative emotions at this time, so try to accept those negative emotions. Emotions communicate important information to our brains about the world around us. They're like an internal compass, helping us to make decisions and understand what we need to do next. So while some emotions such as fear and anxiety may feel unpleasant, they are actually helpful because they motivate us to take action and keep ourselves safe. So the one key thing you can control in this situation is your own response to it. So your response includes the way you think about the situation and your own behaviour in relation to it. So in these situations, focus on what you can control. Keep some structure and routine, so your usual routine may have been disrupted, and this can cause further uncertainty and stress in an already challenging time. So creating a new routine can bring some structure back into your life. So when you're thinking about your to-do list, try to think about putting your tasks into different categories. So for example, routine, necessary and pleasurable. So your routine tasks are things that come around week by week. Your necessary tasks are things that are quite urgent, that crop up now and again. And your pleasurable tasks are things that are going to benefit your health or that you really enjoy doing that brings value to your life. So once you've done this, try to get 2 to 3 items in each category and label them which ones are easy, moderate or difficult to do. Then pick the easy ones first so you can get some ticked off. It's also important to make sure that you have some pleasurable things on your to-do list so you do have something to look forward to or reward yourself with. So if you have any large or daunting items on your list, then you might want to break them down into smaller, more achievable steps. So list what you need to do and then think about how you're going to do it. And then finally, this is the key, make sure that you make this a priority. So plan ahead, put these tasks into your schedule first. So you might wish to make a note now to have a look at your schedule after this webinar and plan something into your week that will add value to your life. So, living in the present, there's a lot of research which indicates that regularly practicing mindfulness techniques can actually rewire your brain, increasing your mental flexibility and helping you to respond more adaptively to stressful situations. It can help to distract you from overthinking and worrying about things that are out of your control and challenge your thoughts and emotions. This then allows you to feel more present and relaxed day to day and to have a better understanding of yourself and others. So in a nutshell, mindfulness means paying attention to what you're doing as you're doing it. So it can be something as simple as listening to a relaxing recording, podcast or music, spending a minute to just focus on your breathing or focusing on your surroundings with purpose and tuning into your senses. Or you could find an activity or a hobby such as gardening, playing an instrument, drawing, painting, things like that. So during many day-to-day activities, people tend to go into autopilot and get quite caught up in their thoughts and not really paying attention to what they're doing. So quite often the fast pace of life can cause us to forget about appreciating the small things. So an example is if you take your dog for a walk first thing in the morning before work, quite often we'll be thinking about the day ahead, such as the amount of emails or appointments we have in our day. Whereas the dog will be thinking about what it can see, what it can hear, what it can smell during its morning walk. So the dog will be focusing on its surroundings and enjoying itself, whereas it is really easy for us to be distracted. So on your screen now are some apps you could try using to reduce your stress. So feel free to take a photo or screenshot or write them down. There are, of course, other apps, so have a look and find one that works for you. But these on your screen have been backed by the NHS. So the Feeling Good app is for you to relax your body and mind with a series of audio tracks designed to help you build confidence, energy and a more positive mindset. My Possible Self can help you to take control of your thoughts and feelings and behaviours, and you can use the simple learning modules to manage fear, anxiety and stress and tackle unhelpful thinking. You can also record your experiences and track symptoms to better understand your mental health. Then we've got the Stress and Anxiety Companion app, which helps you to handle stress and anxiety on the go. It uses breathing exercises, relaxing music and games designed to help calm the mind. And the app helps you to challenge negative thoughts to help you cope better with life's ups and downs. Then we've got Thrive, which helps you to prevent and manage stress and anxiety and related conditions. It's a game-based app that can be used to relax before a stressful situation or on a more regular basis to help you live a happier, reduced stress life. It is completely free, but it does require an access code to start, which can be found by going through the Thrive website on your screen. There are, of course, other apps like Headspace and Calm, and all these apps are free to download, but they do have some optional in-app purchases. So it might be a good idea to just try downloading the free content first, try some of them out and find one that's suitable for you. So for further information on managing your mental well-being, you can access the websites on your screen now. So please feel free to note these down or take a photo or screenshot again. And to finish off, I'd just like to ask you, what can you do today? So what can you take from this webinar to improve your resilience to stress? So have a think about that question now and then see if you can write down a bit of a plan or set yourself a bit of a goal so you can start working on it right away. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the webinar. So I hope you enjoyed it and you've been able to take something from the session to allow you to become more resilient to stress.